Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Sai. This is Yehuda 11. The program is 11 at 11, heard each and every Thursday evening on WSNR 620 AM radio. These are also archived on our hotline, as well as archived on our YouTube channel, 11 LEVIN, the numeral 11, or Rabbi.zone. I'm your humble host, Yehuda Halevi Levin, and this is the most in-your-face, provocative, controversial, and hashkafa-laden program in all of Jewish radio land. My Rabbi say, it says, "V'hachodesh Hashem nehepach me'yogan l'simcha," and the Yerushalmi says that we can read the Megillah the entire month of Adar, even though we don't paskin like the Yerushalmi. Nevertheless, the concept is that Purim continues, so to speak. We're in the aftershocks and the aftermath of Purim. I already made the shahakol before I started the program, so let me give first l'chaim. And as we speak about l'chaim, we petition the Rebbeinu Shalom that the hashkafa of this program should be a schus for Refuah Shalema, for the Sklena Rebbe, who needs an additional amount of siyata d'shmaya. I heard a phone call earlier today that his blood pressure should stabilize. He should be able to come back to himself and continue to be a leader in Klal Yisrael. Rabbi Yisrael Avraham ben Shena Rochel, as well as the Imi Morossi, Masha Bas Matel, Etel Bas Matel, and myself, Yehuda ben Masha. Is in as much as the atmosphere of Purim is still upon us, and due to timing last week in which I did some Purim skits, I didn't have a chance to elaborate enough on the final skit that I was doing. I had a skit where a member of Lubavitch, Satmar, and Aguda were all meeting because they have a problem that the yeshivas do not have enough funding. So the first idea we spent a lot of time on is that since marijuana is becoming kosher, and marijuana in Williamsburg, we kent asach wanas, wanitas, and then one marries Wana and has a Juanita, and they do its reason makdimin because they're 16 years old and they have the baby 2 months after they got married. So we will make Maravana, we will make the kusher hisachta sarabunim herrsche mit der Geseire that whoever from unsere Anshel Shimenee, in the Yigins, in the Chevra will not be affected by the marijuana. Why? We will not allow them to recertify at the UJO or the ODA for the FS, the food stamps, so the andere Programmen, the WIC, and the andere Sachen. In nicht nur dem, we will put out a word that they were secretly learning Tanya with the Lubavitcher Missionären, and the mailer, they will get clapped at the beine, so we will see that they don't become addicted to pot. That was the first skit. The second skit was, we had much less time. But I would like to say the member of Aguda Israel of America who said, obviously he has to be the leader of the committee because of the Neanderthals, as we put it, the 16th century Neanderthals, who are, we can't have a vodka drinking Benedictine drinking Lubavitcher Messianist leading this group of the three of us. And what about that Hasidic Satmar person? He says that he's an anti-Zionist fanatic, but he has last week's cholent stains on his lapels. So it's obvious that only we of Aguda Israel of America After all, who but Aguda Israel of America was able to fill up Citi Field? Who fills up Madison Square Garden in a few locations? So obviously we are the true representatives of Das Torah, and Aguda Israel of America represents the Hamoinam. Well, therefore we have to state as possible. We have to state that since Kamala Harris has suggested that prostitution be legalized throughout the United States, and we have seen with the new Green Deal how many of the liberal left Democrats who are running are all supporting this, Chazarai. It's obvious to us in the inner sanctums of the political conferencing of Agudath Israel, we have the true read on society, and we understand we had to turn the other cheek to Andrew Cuomo when he threatened us that we better not make too much of a tumult regarding homosexual marriage. So all we did was we had one time we had a quote-unquote mission to lobby against homosexual marriage in Albany. And at that time, many of our foolish people, some of them who didn't even fully understand the issue and the ramifications, were busy posing for smiling pictures with the self-same legislators who we were trying to show we were serious about fighting against the marriage, same-gender marriage. So you understand that when we were signaled by Cuomo that we will not get TAP for our yeshivos and learning Torah uber alles, yes, our Gedolah made a decision that since we cannot survive without the money from TAP, after all in Golis for 2,000 years we had TAP funds. And that was the only way the Torah was built. Therefore, we have to turn the other cheek to homosexual marriage for the greater good of Limud HaTorah. This is exactly what Rav Aaron and Rav Moshe and Rav Yaakov would have done, of course. So now that we've established that fact, we have to build further, and we have to understand that Nebuch, of course, we're B'tzar, Slachlonu, Avinu Chtonu, we feel very bad, yes, and we might click and clack a little bit. We'll mention 3 or 4 sentences at some kind of a convention or something, and we'll put some self-serving press release in Hamodia, and the Yated, or whoever else will publish it, Yeshiva World News, and we'll show we're really concerned. But basically, Kamala Harris has already set the pace, and we understand that soon there's going to be legalized prostitution. Now, the fact of the matter is, we have to honor and respect the Memshola because we're in Golos. I mean, after all, in Rome, didn't Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi and all the Tanoim and Amoraim have continued to have a shaykhus with the Roman Senate and the Roman legislators, even though they were debauched? And the same applied during the Golos in Greek with the Yevonim. So after all, we have a time-honored history of looking in the other direction to the lechery, licentiousness, debauchery, etc., throughout the Golos. So why should it be any different now? I mean, there's only one Meshuggah, a Miller Lite, this guy Yehuda Levin, who calls us quote-unquote kiss-ups. But he's a radical Meshuggah. He's a walking, talking Chil Hashem, Yehuda Levin is. He's absolutely no one listens to his radio program. I mean, do you know anyone who listens, anybody who listens to that insane rants, to his screeds, to his diatribes, to his character assassinations, to his impugnings, to his assailings, to his impertinence, to his delusions of that miscreant, that minuvel, that reprobate, that blasphemer, that Aseres b'nei Haman. Whoops, sorry, I got carried away. Anyhow, who listens to Levin? Here's the deal. It's true that in the mid-1980s, this guy Levin got on a radio program of his, and he said, this was during the time of Mandrowitz and Coco, and he said that parents have to teach their children how not to be touched inappropriately and what to do if they are. And Levin said, because there are tens of molesters in the world of chinuch. And as you know, the Gedolei Torah of Torah Masorah hauled Levin down to a meeting, which they were holding after arts for the dessert. And Levin was a rather young fellow at the time. He was only around 33, 34 years old. It was a half a lifetime ago for him. And they said to him, one of the Gedolim said to him, the little Torah that we have built in America, you have destroyed and will destroy, because people will stop going to yeshiva because they heard your broadcast. The bottom line is, at that time, Levin asked how come a letter was supposed to go out after all the damage that was done by the Manrus, the Cocos, and others to teach the parents, and then the last minute no letter was ever sent out. And Levin had the chutzpah to ask these great rabbis, who's responsible for this? At the end, in the back and forth, these Oisvaf Menuvel, Shugan 11, told the rabbis the following statement. He said there will come a time where prostitution will be legalized in New York, and the Zionists will stand at the railroad, the subway train, the F train at 18th and McDonald to solicit Jewish men, chas v'sholem, coming back from work. And said, Levin, when that happens, don't blame Yehuda Levin that he's the one who's responsible. Because the fact of the matter is, the schmutz is coming. And the fact that we don't fight, that makes for more schmutz. So, of course, this guy Levin said this a half a lifetime ago. But now we in Aguda Israel are forced to conclude that it's a lot closer than further. After all, prostitution has been legalized in certain areas of Nevada. It's legalized in districts in different areas of Europe, Holland, and it's going to come to America. So now the question in front of our leading rabbis is, since in the past, modern Orthodox yeshivas, in the name of funding Torah, have at arm's length distance, they've allowed the poor people of different diverse backgrounds to come and play bingo, a form of gambling, and the results of those bingos was funneled into certain yeshivas to support the learning of Torah. We have to learn from those modern Orthodox who did this. We are in different times now. After all, our lobbyist, Mark Yechiel Kalish, has openly voted just 2 weeks ago in the House of Representatives of the state of Illinois. He voted for mandating that all textbooks and all classes in public school from K through 12 have to be LGBTQRSTUV centric. They have to speak about homosexuals and people who may have been homosexuals. After all, Abraham Lincoln might have been a homosexual, and this one might be. And in the math class, you have to put it into the textbooks in any way possible. And Kalish voted for it. And we in Agudat Yisrael, one of our leaders said, Gam ze yavor. This too will pass. And Mr. Kalish does not, Rabbi Kalish, our lobbyist, our top lobbyist for 12 years, and then for the next 4 years, when he had his own lobbying firm, we in Agudat Israel paid him thousands of dollars to lobby on our behalf, so he's 16 years our lobbyist. We made him Not only did we make him the vice president of governmental affairs, which we finally took him off now, and we gave a Bubmei's excuse. We took him off, because it's a conflict of interest now that he's elected official. But we refused to condemn him in any way. We refused to threaten him not to do any of these votes. We're not coming out. And in Chicago, the local Aguda branch is not saying anything. And the Telzer Rosh Yeshivas is not saying anything. And everybody's making a big shvike. So we understand from our Gedolim, our rabbinic leadership, Gam Ze Yavor. We don't have to worry about the millions of people who read the Chicago Sun-Times, the Chicago Tribune, the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, the website Politico, and then saw the vote of Kalish. We don't have to worry about the Chil Hashem of all the people who see Rabbi Mark Kalish with his black yarmulke voting for a homosexual bill and keeping his dirty deal with the senator, the representative who preceded him, Lou Lang, who cut a deal with him that was reported before he was appointed. The deal was reported in the North Cook County Reporter newspaper. We don't have to worry about this. Chil Hashem. It's like, the Rebbe, the great Rebbe, who did a moifes. He found a wallet full of money. So what did he do? He can't stay the whole Shabbos. He has to go home and eat cholent. And his Hasidim are waiting for him. But it's going to be a hefsid meruba on Shabbos, and he could use the money for the meistis. So the Rebbe made a tremendous meifis. He took his two hands like this, he split them in half, and he went Shabbos ahin, Shabbos aher. Okay, and he found the time that's not yom and not laila, and he took klachiyad, the wallet, he kicked it, and he jumped it, and he skipped it, and he blew in it, and somehow it landed up in his house. So we have to recognize the time, and therefore we also have a terem. What? You commoners have the chutzpah to ask you on a din v'cheshbon of Torah Hibelimo and Yisrael. We have to explain to you why we are saying that since prostitution is happening, at arm's length, of course, like the bingo games, chas v'sholom, we won't put the name of Aguda Israel on the houses of ill repute, but since now they're going to be legitimate, we'll have one of our balabatim. Remember when the lesbian was running for mayor? Yes, Christine Quinn, the one who had the partner, who later married her, and she was running for mayor. And Agudat Israel of America, our organization, and we're going back now 10, 12 years ago, our organization went to the singer's house in the East 31st Street. I'm not going to mention his name, just his initials, SD, and we read him mind, the poor tippish. We read him mind that it's for the benefit of Klal Yisrael, because we have to have our bread buttered on all sides. What if this lesbian becomes the mayor? So we have to be with her. And we had her there, and we had a handful of people, Aguda people, Torah de Kabalabatim, and they raised her $60,000. And our distinguished leader, our executive vice president, David Zweibel, when he was confronted with this, he said, he made like he didn't know anything about it. The $60,000 came together by magic when there were representatives. He didn't know anything about it. He said, I'm happy to be informed, though. It's very good. We have to have a finger in every pie, just in case we have to cover. We have to be broad-minded. You understand? Did Rabbi Zweibel ask the Moetzes Gedolei Torah about this? And what about the fact that the New York Post the following Sunday had a full-page article on page 2 of the New York Post, which at the time was read by well over 500,000 people. And David Seifman, the city chief editor, wrote, I don't understand. Agudat Yisrael is supposed to be a leading Orthodox organization opposing the whole homosexual agenda. How are they supporting this woman for mayor? And then he said, I checked and I saw what she handed out money, and I see Agudat Yisrael got many grants of many thousands of dollars. Now I understand. But of course, it's not a Chilish Hashem, because probably the grandson of that Hasidic rabbi who said Shabbos ahin, Shabbos aher, it's nish tog and it's nach, he probably had some kind of a mahalech, whipsy dipsy diddly doo, hidely doo, skibbly dapply doo, that we stomp plain people wouldn't be able to understand it. And he was moderate. So if we did that already 12 years ago, and now it's this Katnu Adoris, and the main thing is we have to fight for our yeshivos and our mostos and Torah, and it's Yaduot Lahakol that we would never be able to survive in Golis. It's not what the Chazal say. He's horrible. Torah. No. We have to be able to have our balabatim, have to be able to have their Caribbean vacations and go away for Pesach and their susei fresher eye and everything else. And at the same time, there's a big hit. They're paying a lot of money for the yeshivas and the mostos. So therefore, we have to do what we have to do. So we're going to keep it at arm's length. We're going to have some of these balabatim, these self-same flunkies, and we'll tell them it's Shemayim. Like, remember, one of the flunkies is the billionaire, David Lichtenstein. So a number of years ago, we told him to go. We told him and Aaron Cutler, the skier, we told him, Rabbi Aaron Cutler, Zayd is very proud of him. He's the chief executive officer of Lakewood, Aaron Cutler. We told them, and they went, and Lichtenstein made in his opulent digs at the time of Lakewood. He made a fundraiser for Hillary Clinton. Yes, that big Oheves Yisrael, the one who kissed Arafat. Yes, that big Sadekis. To promote her, as a matter of fact, Aaron Cutler even told Rabbi Levin, he said, I wanted to bring Hillary into the Beis Medrash. If she would have seen the thousands of people in Kol Torah, this would have made a metamorphosis. Hillary Clinton would have understood the chashivas of Torah. Aaron, are you out of your flipping mind? Yes, that's right. That's what Aaron Cutler said. And they raised $220,000 for Hillary Clinton's campaign. They charged something like $5,000 a pop. So we have a long history of going with all kinds of low life and prostituting ourselves in our value. And it's not called prostitution. It's all mutter lechatchila, beikar adin. And everybody knows that every single thing that's ever done by Aguda Yisrael is done. Every single thing is done. Bikodlavat kotan, biyamin, lismoil, everything with consultations with the Metzgedeler Torah. What? You're saying, what about when they honored Joe Lieberman a year before Rabbi Shara passed away? And that time, Rav Elias Fay was furious when Saul Winter called him up and asked him that Lieberman supports homosexual marriage, homosexuals in the military, abortion on demand, partial birth abortion, everything else. And how come they're honoring him? And Rav Fay was furious, and he said, I wasn't informed, I wasn't asked. And Rabbi Shara, the greatest askin on these American shores, Rabbi Shara actually said to Saul Winter, I'll tell you where he said it. He said it at Aguda Avenue L when there was a shleishim for Rabbi Isri Zatzal. He said to Shlomo Winter, who are you pointing your finger at? When Mr. Winter got a little upset and pointed his finger at Rabbi Shara and said, Hayatachin, you honored Lieberman. And Rabbi Shara said to him, you were told we made a mistake. Dun, 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 dun. Da, 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 da. Did you see that? Did you hear what he said? He said, the Rabbi Shara said, Aguda Yisrael made a mistake. But like Sasim and many Yamin is smile. I feel him smile, Yamin smile. We have to listen. If they say homosexual marriage, be darned. We have to support the voices. You have to listen to them. How could you mean they made a mistake? And what about when that guy Levin himself called up for Shmuel Kamenetsky and he said, thank you very much. I didn't know anything about this. I'm going to make sure not to appear in pictures with him. How could it be? Are you talking? And what about when some of the hacks at Agudath Israel were asked, can you tell us which Gedolei Yisrael specifically said, and why did they say that you have to let Kalish get away with it? Because it's a greater Chil Hashem if we're going to criticize him. So therefore, for the greater good of Klal Yisrael, can you tell us this new regulation in Klal Yisrael that seems to go against, it flies against Hochiach, Toichiach, Es HaMisecha, V'Leisiz Alav Chet, and now there's a new Gamzei Yavor. Where does it say this? That now cry havoc and let's loose the dogs of war. That it's not a big Chil Hashem, that it remains unrequited. In other words, it's not responded to, and it's out there in public in the Tribune, the Chicago Sun-Times, the Politico, the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, the Cook Report, the North Cook County Report, and many other areas, and that the poor, foolish Jewish people and many Gentiles, and he voted the wrong way now, like for Schmutz. That Chil Hashem pales into insignificance about the terrible Chil Hashem. If Aguda Yisrael would have to say a word of reproach to Kalish in public, you're doing wrong. We don't hold from it. You can't do this again, right? Of course, this is the new Das Torah. Torah Chadashot Nitnu Lonu Miagudas Yisrael. So therefore, to keep punctuation, it's absolutely imperative that we have to get on the bandwagon here. We'll have some of our balabatim form a non-for-profit organization, something very benign, like help save the whales or the seals, and that they'll run houses of ill repute. Of course, we won't have any Orthodox Jews working there or anything like that. We'll let the Gentiles do it, but we'll give 10% of the money to save the whales, but then 90% of the money will help our mosas, will help our yeshivas, because after all, it's Tiltul Menatzad, it's Yad Shlishi, it's a Shinu Hashem. It's really not us that's doing it, and it's a different rishus. It's a rishus harab, it's a rishus hayochid. We don't have to worry about it. We have all kinds of lamdanim, and nobody's allowed to ask any questions that we want to din v'cheshbon, because Joe Lieberman, who we honored in Aguda, when he was asked by Imus, Joe Lieberman, it says something in the in your Torah. It says that you're not allowed to intermarry. And it also says something against homosexual relations. And Joe Lieberman told him, I don't consider it my Torah, something to that effect. He told Imus, I don't, the blessing of Shalom Asani Isha that the rabbis said. He said, I don't do that. In other words, we have Joe Lieberman cut and paste Judaism. This is the same Joe Lieberman who the OU that recently gave a hechsher on gay ice cream. We in Aguda Yisrael would never give a hechsher on gay ice cream. We're much better than that. We might give a hechsher indirectly on nationalizing prostitution because Dina Tamachus Dina, we can't do anything about it really, etc., etc. We'll do about as much about that as Schnall did when it passed by one vote, assisted suicide in New Jersey, and Schnall was not even there because Schnall already gave an interview to Hamadi or whatever it is. He said it's going to be a landslide. There's nothing we can do about it. I mean, our people are the most sophisticated people. That's why Schnall knows exactly what he's doing, and he prognosticated. He probably prognosticated it was going to pass in Maryland also. And Rabbi Sheftel Neuberger, the Menahel of Baltimore, 4 out of 5 people who he supported, he sent his letter. He supported them. He supported them because some of them didn't have any opponents, so we have to be pragmatic and real. How can we not support them? They're going to win. We need them. They voted for assisted suicide. So we don't, it's a shanal. And then they thought for sure it's going to pass. We can't do anything. We might as well get the money from the yeshiva. We can't do anything anyhow about homosexual marriage. We can't do much about assisted suicide. We can't do much about prostitution. We can't do much about abortion. We can't do. So we got to get the money for yeshivas. Schnall was wrong because it failed, despite the fact that the 2 state senators representing the densely Orthodox population in Baltimore voted the wrong way, because I'm sure Rabbi Sheftel Neuberger was on the phone day and night, and he was making phone calls, and he was having everybody and their uncles and their cousins, and Howard Friedman, the Grace Knacker, the politician guy who Clinton comes to his house. I'm sure they were all working day and night against assisted suicide, and that's why all the people in Baltimore, just like all the people in New Jersey, were told by Aguda Israel to make phone calls. Right? To their action alerts. If you believe that, you might believe in the tooth fairy, the Hasidic tooth fairy, of course. So, anyhow, Schnall had a big cycle. He was probably saying the same thing about Baltimore. Guess what? It still didn't pass in Baltimore by 1 vote. But we know it's going to pass next time, so we're not going to do anything stark about it. So anyhow, we think that the way to save these shivas is basically that we'll get the money still ahead from these organizations that are started by Aguda Balabatim secretly to save the whales or the porpoises or whatever it is, and we'll give 10% there, and the rest will go for the shivas. And lahadul Torah v'yahadia yiskadelu yiskadesh shemer. It's going to be a big kiddush Hashem because we're fighting for Torah. This is Yehud 11, and it's a bittere gelächter. Och and vei, it's a bittere gelächter. Let's move on, my dear friends. Let's move on. Well, yeah. Even a broken clock is right 2 times a day. It looks like that guy Yehud 11 is right because it's moving closer and closer to legalizing prostitution. Yep. Okay. let's give a little bit of the news here, Rabbi Side. We're talking about the 4 votes that it passed in one of the houses, like the equivalent of the assembly, I think, in Baltimore. And 4 out of the 5 people that Rabbi Sheftel Neuberger supported and wrote a letter. You understand? Because he said it's a Messiah from his father, and I am Messiah. You understand? This is also a Messiah, so he had to do it. How do you think those politicians look at the Sheftel Neubergers and look at the Zweibels and look at Aguda Israel when they see that we don't even speak out against the Kalish? And since when is the fact that some of them don't have an opponent, that's a heta? In other words, if Hitler was running for office, or a half of Hitler, right? So, and he had no opponent, that means the Jews would go out and vote for him, right? All right, okay. It's like Stalin once said, or one of the leading communists said, the capitalists are so stupid, they'll sell us the rope that we use to hang them. You understand? Vote for them. Nope. By the way, I want to tell you a quick story. Last year, or months ago, I don't remember exactly when, they were having a hearing on such an assisted suicide bill. And a frum gentleman went down, a big Ben Torah, and he started to testify, and at a certain point, he lost it, and he pointed his fingers at this committee, and he said, basically, if you pass this kind of a law of assisted suicide, then it's the equivalent of the Nuremberg laws that dehumanize certain people, like undesirables, and you people are Nazis. Ooh, when he said this, it broke out, and he in the hair, and people got so upset, and they got so angry, etc., etc. And of course, Schnall, everybody else, it's a terrible Chil Hashem. Guess what? The homosexuals are never afraid to call anybody homophobes, to scream racist. The blacks are not afraid to scream racist. Nobody is afraid to scream anything. But the Yiddelach, as a tutfei Schreitman, Mordechai went out, give all Tzaka Gedolo Mara Ad Ma'id. It was dignified for the Gadol Hador. Imagine Moshe Feinstein would go out in the middle of the street and scream Ad Ma'id. So what was the terrible thing that this gentleman did? He told these, excuse me, these mamzerim, these rishoyim arurim, who are going to cause thousands of people to die, because the trickle-down effect is this is just the first slice of salami, and it's going to get worse and worse with the legislation. So he called them Nazis. Imagine if 20 people would have gotten out there and called them Nazis and called them Nuremberg law people, whether you use the term Nazis or not, call them murderers, call them aiders and abettors. You understand? What about this story? Many years ago, I got up at the city council, and there's actually, the homosexuals made a documentary, and they included this piece, a video of this piece that was on TV. They filmed the whole thing. And I stood up to testify in 1986, shortly after running for mayor. I stood up to testify against the homosexual bill that was sponsored by Koch and the city council. Here's time for the second l'chaim. And I said, Mayor Koch is infecting the city with a case of moral AIDS by pushing this Mishkav Zacha bill. The sky won't fall in. That's how he talked, like a squawking chicken. Ooh, when I said that, Sam Horowitz was like an old-fashioned candy store man from Brighton Beach, you understand? Took his gavel, he banged down, you can't say that. Right away, the media that was sleeping, because they dafka pushed me off, I was supposed to speak right after Koch, but they pushed me off because they were afraid I would get a lot of publicity. So they pushed me off for 3 or 4 hours and half the media left. When I got up and I said that, Sam Horowitz banged on the gavel. He woke up the remaining media, and believe me, they all covered it. They covered it. It got out there. He said, you can't say that. I said, I can say whatever I want. It's a free country in America, and I have my 3 minutes, and I'll have my say. And I'll run against you if you try to silence me. I said, you're not my mother, and you don't tell me when I can speak and how I can speak. So, meanwhile, NYC Kendall letter was doing NYC play-by-play on radio or television. So they called me upstairs on top of City Hall, the higher floor, for an interview. And they dafka put this reform, quote-unquote, clergyman, Balfour Brickner, was a very sophisticated person, to show Zulo Mazu. There are rabbis who say one way, rabbis who say the other way. I drove this man crazy because I called him the Balfour Desecration, a play on the words Balfour Declaration. And I debated him live on TV, and I made Ashu Blot out of him. And he stood up and he said, I'm a horse's backside, which was a gewaldige compliment. But anyhow, to get back to the story, so after I spoke over Ken Oletta, if you know how to deal with the media, you ignore what they ask you and you say the message you want to say. And Ken Oletta was sophisticated enough to know what I was doing. I was using him, despite him, to get my message out to the people watching. So he wanted to check me. So he said, you're a rabbi, you're a man of the cloth, you're a religious leader. At the time, by the way, I was like 31, 30, 32, 31. He said, is it dignified for you to go and to scream and to yell and to commandava like this? He didn't use the word commandava. So I said, I'll tell you what, Ken. There's a movie out now called David and Bathsheba, starring Richard Gere. Now, I didn't see the movie. I saw write-ups about it. I said, I read it in the original script. It's called the Bible, Tanakh. I said, and there, David takes off his tunic, his kingly raiments, and he dances with utter abandon. He dances in front of the Ark of the Covenant as they bring him into Jerusalem. And his wife, Michal, the daughter of King Saul, said, you're acting like one of the empty-headed knaves. Like, is this befitting a king of Israel? And basically, David answered, oh, listen here. When it comes to the honor of God, I have no personal dignity. That was basically what he answered. And therefore, I'm dancing utter abandon in front of God for the honor and glory of God. So I said, I'll tell you what. When they're making homosexual legislation, which is bringing down the whole morality of being a nation of priests and holy people, and even the Noahites are responsible for this code of conduct. So I stand up without any dignity and I cry out for godly honor. But you're very calm, Ken Oletta. You can't be shaken, etc., etc. You're very calm. So I want to ask you a question. There must be something in life that would cause you to lose your cool and start to scream for morality also. What would it take? That they would have to mug or violate your wife or daughter in Central Park? Then would you start screaming, Ken? And I want to say with all due respect, maybe we should start screaming. The politicians, when the Mishkevei Zach is screaming, the pro-abortionists scream, and the other side screams, say, verstehen. You're going to stand on your pedestal? I'll tell you what, you have a better way of doing it, you do it better, Schnall. But meanwhile, you did nothing. You weren't even there in the final days. You misassessed. It passed by 2 votes, and I lay it at the feet of Agudas Yisrael. If Agudas Yisrael would have had all of Lakewood making calls and all of Teaneck making calls, all of Edison, and they would have gone over to the modern Orthodox rabbis from the RCA and et cetera, and they would have OU, and they would have made a strong push, and they would have gone to speak to priests and galachim and everything else, they could have stopped it. The same thing with Sheftel Neuberger. There's a black woman. Her name was Jill Carter, I think, or something like that. And this Jill Carter, when they were pushing homosexual marriage in Baltimore, in Maryland, which ultimately passed, she held up the whole bill. Sometimes the legislature called it, why? Because she wanted to get money for her district, her black district, or part of her district, because it's black. Part of it might be Orthodox Jews. Anyhow, I'm not sure, but the point is, so you see that she doesn't have really strong convictions. It's the Gelt thing. So that's a position that could have been worked on. That could have been the 1 vote. Some of these people who Sheftel Neuberger, Rav Sheftel Neuberger, they're Menahel of Baltimore Yeshiva. Why doesn't he stick to being a Menahel? Why does he get involved in things that he doesn't know? The Chil, the Oim V'Noira that he does. And the Shepselach in Baltimore, time and time again, they vote for the low-life scum. Don't you see the pattern? In Wiensburg, it was years ago when Lipa Lefkowitz, the Rosh HaKahul of Satmar, told the local legislator he doesn't care which way he votes on abortion. Abortion passed by one vote at the time in New York. Yeah. State Senator Paul Buxton one time was a 1 vote. The Rav Moshe had in reverse, I think. I mean, we see it time and time again. The homosexual marriage thing, Dov Hiken said that if there would have been proper fighting in the assembly, it could have been stopped. Kal v'chomer in the Senate, where the people in the 5 towns and Agudas Yisrael with big advertisements and the Flatbush Jewish News, and etc., were busy honoring the guy who's now sitting in prison, Dean Skelos, who allowed the Republicans to vote their quote unquote their convictions. He didn't impose party discipline, and that's why it passed narrowly. Who's at fault? Aguda Yisrael and the Fruma Yidden. You can't just beat it for the cover to send out your press releases and tell us how much more ridiculous things you did. Okay? You have to understand the hashkafa. The world surrounds us. And what we do has a magnified impact. It's a Moedik Chil Hashem. Moedik Chil Hashem. That's why the title of this week's program is called We Assist Suicide. We assist it by not doing enough. Sin of omission is equal to a sin of commission. Not being active is like being active the other way. And now it's come close. You don't care about homosexual marriage. You don't care about ratzling babies and abortion because Unzer never abort, right? Go ask Rav David Cohen. Go ask other people who give their time for abortions if Unzer don't abort. And you're legalizing and making mutter and everything else. Go. Moiridik. Now, I want you to know that Schnall or others, Schnall, maybe in the interview with Hamadiyah or the Jewish press, I think it was Hamadiyah, he said there are some protections that have been put into the bill by the sponsor. He said we have no choice. It's going to pass overwhelmingly. So he doesn't know his head from his foot. You understand? He's too busy making a good alive things with Shia Markowitz and what's his name, the lobbyist in Washington, Abba Cohen, the new executive, whatever he is, that he was elevated to take over Kalish's title, governmental affairs, vice president of governmental affairs. They're too busy making a good alive things where they all smile at each other and say inanities, not being machadish anything, but just to show they're on the map. And they should have been fighting full force here. So Schnall says, yeah, this thing was going to pass. It's going to pass, and we can't do anything. And they made it better. They made it shvach. You know what they said? The sponsor made it weaker, but Schnall doesn't need to have enough seichel or he's a liar. I hope Yerucham Silbai, I hope somebody gives this to Schnall. You're in a serious, responsible position. You might have to give a din v'cheshbin because your ineptitude and misleading people. Why did we have to push this into our Hamadiyah the last minute, Schnall? Why weren't you pushing it weeks advance into Hamadiyah and into Yated and making good action alerts to fight it and getting all the people to call up, et cetera, maybe even go down to Albany, a mission to Trenton, rather. Shame on you. Before it used to be only a doctor could do it. Could say that the person say Adis, that the person expressed the will that they want to off themselves, they want to commit suicide. Now it was said even a social worker. So you understand they're going down. Safeguards, the opposite. Before it used to be that you could take oral, you had to take oral, the person would have to take pills to poison themselves. Now it's with an injection, which makes it much easier, an injection. It's much easier to take an injection or have somebody administer an injection. And I can go on and on, but I'm not going to waste time. They don't know what they're doing. You've got to prick the bubble of this myth that Aguda follows Das Torah, that they consult with people, and that the Aguda knows, and we can assume that anything they do is with Gedolei Yisrael. And guess what? And if they did consult with all the Gedolei Yisrael, the errant Rabbi Sheriff philosophy has gotten us into this mess. He was a great person, but when it came to morality, he got us into this mess. By having a hands-off policy that they're following today, it's shreklach. And we got to say it. At this late stage in the development culture, we got to bring it back. Got to bring it back to normalcy. We've got to change things. By the way, in Maryland update, as I told you, it failed by one vote in the state Senate. This is a message to us. Now, in the Jewish press, there's an excellent article. And although the Jewish press is chicken little now, I'm sorry, I love what they're doing, but they're chicken little that they were naming the names of people in New York, like Oisvarf, Daniel Rosenthal, or Simcha Ziricheva Eichenstein, when they vote for the schmutz garbage, the abortion, homosexual garbage, which they did a few times already, Rosenthal, Kaseda. Now the Jewish press doesn't seem to want to mention names, but since they have a long-running feud with Agudas Yisrael, so I'm asking this week to put in the criticism of Agudas Yisrael, which is excellent. But the Jewish press should be consistent. They should let the chips fall where they may. And this article in the Jewish press this week, on page 13, New Jersey passed assisted suicide legislation by one vote. Okay? I want to tell you, the gentleman, Benjamin Feinberg, who writes this, he says as follows, that we should be having people in the legislature introduce a bill to turn over the assisted suicide that just became law. You'll say it's ridiculous, it can't pass. But let me say, if you're busy fighting, you're showing it's not a foregone conclusion, you might stop it from happening in New York. And he tells a story. Right after homosexual marriage passed, there was a state senator, a Russian Jew, who was just the state senator for a few months. By the time he got in against Louis Fiedler, who the Aguda types were all kissing up and voting for, like Rav Aaron Schechter's brother, Mendel Schechter, the Grace, we have to give him the richtige Kabbat, Chaim Belinda, vote for Lou Fiedler. The Eiswaf was for all the schmutz, you understand? But Strobel won, our side won by a few hundred votes. They kept him tied up so long. When he finally got in, he was state senator for 2 or 3 months. Then they redistricted, and Simcha Felder became the state senator. When Strobel was there, he promised our activists that he would introduce a bill to overturn the homosexual marriage that just passed. So he did that, but unfortunately, it was so late in the season, everything else, and then he was out on his keister, as Ronald Reagan used to say. But when Simcha Felder was asked to do it, he's not going to do a thing like that. He's going to be embarrassing. It's going to be shtusim. They're going to look at him. He's not going to do a thing like that. He's only there for help for yeshivas and to fight fun everybody. That he could fight fun. But for morality to fight fun, no, Simcha couldn't do it because Simcha Felder, Ziskite, was busy a few months before that or a few years before that inviting Christine Quinn, the open lesbian speaker. Remember, that was the one who Aguda supported, some of the Balabatim supported at the fundraiser that they were behind when she was running for mayor. They brought her into the base. Yaakov Barbach, Simcha Felder brought this great role model in. So you expect Simcha Felder should introduce a bill to overturn homosexual marriage? Simcha, I love you. You kissed me. You told me I was right. But I want to tell you now. Now they're telling you in the state senate to kiss off. And there's rumors that you're so depressed and dejected by being an outcast, the man without a country, not the Republicans, not the Democrats. You sit alone. Nobody wants to sit next to you, except some kind of a mushkis, I forget, who's a friend of yours. Is that Holyman? I can't remember who it is. Whoever it is. The point of the matter is, Simcha might be out. He might be out. Never. All right. So I want to tell you what else is going on in the Jewish press that's important. What else is going on in the Jewish press is that there's a fantastic article from Dvera Waxman or whatever her name is from England, and she says that on the day of Tainus Esther, there were Yidden who were davening and saying Tehillim and everything else because they had a hearing in the parliament about that agenda to force that all the schools, the religious schools, the private schools, all the schools have to teach the Mishkav Zocha and tolerance and everything else. It's called, this is the article, I thank the Jewish press. You understand? I give them a patch when they deserve a patch. I give them thanks. I'm an equal opportunity abuser. I tell it straight. I'm not trying to win a popularity contest. And I say, if you have more sophisticated people who can do this nice and not be in your face, go ahead and do it. I don't care. Levin, by screaming and yelling, you're not winning anybody over. If I care, you're turning people off. Get turned off, get turned off. Don't threaten me. Get turned off. I don't care. I'm here to scream out. So Tutvei Schreitman. We're waiting for all the sophisticates, all the people who know how to do it so nicely in fancy speeches. Where the blank are they? I don't see them or hear them for the last 40 years. I'm going to do exactly what I'm doing as long as Hashem gives me the koyach. By the way, I'm telling you, Rabbi Sai, this is killing me. I am paying 18% interest on these radio programs. I'm paying $150 a month just in interest to do these programs. I do not have sponsors because it's a controversial program, and I am pleading with people. If you feel the hashkafa, if you feel this is worthwhile, please do not sit on your keisters. I need help just to fund the program. You can contact me, become part of my WhatsApp. My number is WhatsApp, and you can contact me through that, is 718-469-6999. Won't you consider, I need to have approximately $250 a week for this radio program, approximately. You could sponsor of the program. You could sponsor it anonymously. You could sponsor it L'Zeicha Nishmas. You could sponsor it. It should be a schus for your kids to be pure, your grandchildren. You're having a problem with a daughter who dresses preacheristic? Make a deal with God. Say, I'm going to stand up for Kedusha v'Tahara. I'm going to give that screaming, ranting Mimi, Yehuda Levin, the money. I'll pay for the radio, and it should be as chus that my kids, my Eineklach, should be pure in this terrible, devolving culture. Please contact me. Call me, 718-469-6999. Not on the phone. You can't get through. You can only do that through WhatsApp, or you can text me. And it would be a big schus and a big help for me and take off a tremendous financial pressure. It's like spitting in the wind. It comes back to hit me. Rabbi, I get very few responses. I will still continue to do it, but I beg you, I need your help. I'm not a proud man. I don't mind asking. People say, you have to ask, I'm asking. I've been asking for weeks. It's slim pickings. Anyhow, British Jews spend time as the fearing for their children's souls. Okay, that's the headlines. And Shraga Starin, the Haredi activist, said the draft regulations now before Parliament amount to a serious erosion of the rights of parents to have their children educated in accordance with their beliefs and values. This right is currently underwritten by the European Convention of Human Rights, to which the UK is a signatory. Rabbi Say, it's Shreklach and Kol HaKavod at this late stage. They have no choice, Kol HaKavod. They're fighting in England, but probably chances are they had an Aguda type organizations there, and they also didn't do enough as this was coming down. And they didn't make enough of a alliance with Christians and even with Islamists. That's right. For this thing, you go and you make an alliance with the Christians and Islamists to fight this thing. I mentioned to you a few weeks ago, the Islamists, they had 600 people. They yanked their kids out of school. They made a protest with 600 people. Have the Yidden been doing that? They should do it, not them alone. They should do it with blacks, with other minorities, with other religious Christians. There are people who are upset by this. Anyhow, I want you to know, I'm telling you, the world goes around by uns Yidden. And I've shown it to you countless times with the one votes here, the one votes there. It's all this kind of stuff. What the problem is, analyze it. They're saying you're allowed to do all this because of money for meisters. It comes down to geld. Isn't that Esnan Zoyna? I made a skit about prostitution. He's making me saying Aguda prostitution. Who speaks like that? What kind of a Rav? What kind of a person? Who is this? Wake up and smell the coffee. Who speaks like this? The Torah speaks about this. It says, you can't use the wages of sin, of znus, to the Beis HaMikdash. So we'll switch into the skit again. Oh, and you're saying that we shouldn't be able to use the wages of prostitution, but it's tiltum and etzad, and it's through a third party. It's a shini Hashem, it's a shini Rishus, it's usually midas, you understand, etc. And by the way, the Esnan Zona, it could be, we found a arcane sefer somewhere that reputedly is supposed to have said that only applies to the Beis HaMikdash, but now that we're in Golus, so therefore the Chazal said that there's a heter, you understand, etc., etc. It's like the Jackie Mason routine. You understand? We are prostituting our values, God's values, the Torah values, for geld, and we're getting crumbs. And are our children getting better? Rav Shlomo Brevdes Zatzal used to scream about this. We have more learning Torah than we had for generations in Europe, okay? Generations we never had. So I don't understand. It says, HaKol Kol Yaakov. If the Kol Kol Yaakov, they're learning Torah. Look at Lakewood, look at Bnei Brak, look at Ponevezh, look at Mir. Today, even girls who dress somewhat priestestic and have the longest sheiklach, they know they have to marry a Kolo person for a number of years. So it's Kol Kol Yaakov, tremendous. How come Yadayim Yadei? He said, how come Kalish gets up? He doesn't get up to make a speech against Mishkav Zachar, against the Borsha, which he supports most of these things, and he votes for them. But what he did is he got up to make a speech that there's been a 350% increase in anti-Semitism. So Kalish, the big Aguda lobbyist that he spoke so many hundreds of hours with Gedolei Yisrael, he got shimish from Rabbi Levin Zatzal and tells Yeshiva that's remarkably quiet about the Oisvar. Yeah, so Kalish is speaking out like a liberal modern Jew We're going to implement Holocaust studies in the public schools, and that's going to train the kids like Chaim Deutsch. We're going to have another curriculum, and that's going to stop anti-Semitism. Kalish, Chaim, you don't know Hashkafa 303. I won't say 101, it's 303. 303 is that when it's Kol Yaakov, it's not merely learning Torah. It's applying what you learned. Says Rabbi Brevda, we have tremendous amounts of people learning, but ask their wives, are they still kaisans? Do they have good midas? Are they less stingy? If the Torah, if the Kol Yaakov does not extend to the Kol Yaakov of following through with our voices and repeating and actualizing on the precepts of the Torah, then Yadayim Yadei Esav. So all of the voting to make it a bigger hate crime and to punish it. Look, Hashem is showing you the Oisrael who helped to kill Stark. I just saw something. He burned his body. Something like he's getting 2 years or something like that. 2 years? Okay? Don't you understand, Rabbi Say? It's almost over. There's been a 75-year hiatus that the people felt guilty. The Umas HaOlam, the Holocaust is down 2 generations later. They don't give a darn. Hashem is sending us a message. Either you get back into the Kol Yaakov, it's going to be Yadayim Yadei Esav. The Kol Yaakov is not how much tap money we can get. And the bluff tell me they got so much tap money. Did this lower the amount that Lakewood is? Lakewood's not in New York, but New York, did it lower the amount that the Yeshiva Gedolos are charging the parents because they got tap money? Is it really lowering it? Well, the Yeshivas are saying, we need more and more and more. What can we do? What can we do? You're not going to have Siyata D'Shmaya. Remember when Shishim were mischasa with Talis Echad? How was Shishim ever? There was a time they were learning Torah Ba'aniyus, and 6 people were covered by one talis. That's all they had to keep them warm, at one talis. In other words, when there's a certain achdus, when there's a certain simplicity, so then the oichel kimmer, you understand? You eat a little bit and you're satisfied. It grows in your stomach. Here, you keep on kissing up to the goyim and kissing up and sacrificing on Hashem's values with some kind of crazy Ateirim or Gedolim who don't tell us, who never teach us, who never instruct us, who never answer us. What happened to the good old days when Rabbi Schwab and Rabbi Hutner and Yibad L'chaim, even Rabbi Kelvin from the older Rosh Yeshiva in Lakewood, not the junior, used to write in Jewish Observer. They used to give us hashkafa. Of course, the Jewish Observer disappeared. No more hashkafa. We'll never hear hashkafa of why you're allowed. Teach it to us. Why are you allowed to do all these things? Turn the other cheek to Kalik and support actively by sins of omission and commission to support all this chazarai. Rabbi Say. I was just very stark. Just want to tell you the last remaining minutes. I want to tell you very stark. We should put kavana into the davening of the kabashov for God l'sechereseinu v'son neis l'kavas kiliyaseinu. What does that mean? Lift up a flag for kibbutz galiyas. You know what a flag is? Flag is a sign of pride. We want the shiyach. Now they raise the flags, or the flag over the home of the free. The flag, flag, pride. If we had Jewish pride, we would put our money where our mouth is. We have more millionaires than ever before. We wouldn't kiss up. We wouldn't make these compromises. We wouldn't do an Esnan Zayna business. Rabbi say, let's wake up. Let's wake up. It's going downhill. Wake up and smell the coffee. Parshas Parah, Tovo ha'ein b'tkaneis sayis b'no. Parshas Parah is, there was a chet of Egel, which was licentiousness, etc. That goes back to the first licentiousness that Chava had a relationship with the Nachash. She betrayed her husband. But, therefore, Sarah, who was a replacement value of Chava, she was kidnapped by what's his name? By Parah. She was kidnapped by Avimelech because she had to be a replacement of these 2 Nechoshim. But she didn't yield to them. That was part of the tikkun. But Yocheved and Miriam were kidnapped by Paro. It's Gemara and Saita, and he tried to do an avera with them. He was a nachash, hatan nagol shabiyar. It was all a redux, a repeat of the chet of Adam Rishon. But Esther had the final resolution had to be that since Chava sinned, I would like to suggest Esther had to be nivel. She had to actually have a relationship, but she was karka olam. And that's why she ran back every time afterwards, not like Adam, who separated from Chava for 130 years, and he gave birth to Shaden and Lilin, and he was over Hitzah Zer Levatola, and that's one of the reasons for Shoiv of him. So Esther would Dafka run back to show her fidelity, her loyalty. She was the opposite. Esther came with the schus of Sarah, as Rabbi Akiva says. Esther comes from Sarah. Sarah was a tikkun of Chava, and therefore Aduma we read right after Esther, it's called Megillas Esther, because now the Nashim are in ascendancy. She brought back the Jewish family unit. She became a leader, Megillas Esther. She's the one who tells the Chazal, Kavuni L'Doyres, and the Chazal say you're going to cause anti-Semitism if we have Megillas Esther, until they found it says, K'soy Sefer Zikaron. Remember, right in the Sefer, that was an allusion to Megillah. Esther wins. And now, right after Megillah, right after Purim, we have Tavo Eimet Kanei Sois B'nah, because the women are going to rectify. I turn to the Neshei Yisrael in these final seconds. Please influence your male folk. Say, stop doing the Esnan Zayna. Stop compromising. Stop. The women should stop the long shaitlach and the preachers. Down with Flatbush Mama, Chas v'Sholom, that she should become a city councilwoman. The Neshei Klal Yisrael have to get back to their leadership position. And that will be Tovo Ya'im B'Tkanei Asayas. But no, this is Yehuda Levin wishing you a good Shabbos, good Tamid. Contact me, please. Contact me, 718-469-6999 through WhatsApp, or through WhatsApp, and try to help out the program. This is Yehuda Levin, a guten Tamid, a guten Shabbos.